kind of confused that the movie's called Tron, but Tron isn't the main character.
Yes. Right.
And then the game that Flynn created, that's where I got lost, because it's like, is it in the world of Tron or is it the Tron person? And then and then like the master computer, I really didn't feel like, okay, what's his why does he hate everybody?
Hello. Please come in. There's some fresh cookies in the cookie jar. There's a pitcher of Kool-Aid on the counter. Have a seat. We will put a movie on for you. This is Movies at Grandma's House, where we look at movies from the past, see if they're good today, and Granny approves. I'm your host, Isaac. Computers can't think. Not yet. And who's joining me to consider the movie Tron?
This is Seth. Greetings, programs.
And I'm Ben, bio-digital jazz man.
And I am Sheldon. Hey, Alan, can I have some of your popcorn?
And we're glad to have all you with us at Grandma's house. It's not technically Grandma's house. We're at the Galacade, and we have to give a big shout out to Galaga Guy 88. This is his ad. This is his territory, but he was so kind to have us all together. Seth, you and I are together. How does it feel? We're in the same room.
Unbelievable.
I'm so excited because we've been planning this for so long to get together and consider what would be appropriate. Tron. We have an arcade. How appropriate is that? And in fact, there's a centipede right next to me. I just got the high score on it. I'm not one to brag, but I have to say, I'm having a great time so far. So I'm just having a ball being here. But how are you guys doing? We'll start with you guys, our special guests.
Ben?
I'm doing great. This is fantastic. Off camera, there is so much other arcades and even a different room that has even more arcades. So this is just scratching the surface of what's really here.
Yeah, I will say, as far as the high score goes, my wife's going to be happy about that. That's her game. Yes. And she actually have a Tron arcade, and last night I decided that the spinner was not going to work. So that's part of the plan. You know, they didn't experience, Tron itself, but they will one day. They will.
It's appropriate. I think Jeff Bridges hacked into the system.
Yes.
And it crashed it. So
Yeah.
how appropriate for that. But that's just to give you a little backstory of why it looks a little different. But we're so excited to get into this one. Oh, it's just I'm just so pumped for this one. I don't know what else to say. But other than, if you like our content, if you want to join the crew, be sure to hit that subscribe button. It's right down there at the bottom. So you'll be all up to date on Movies at Grandma's House. And as well, this is your spoiler warning. So going forward, if you haven't seen this movie, just be aware we're in that territory. But as we mentioned, we are considering a little movie called Tron. So to give a little backstory of this movie, it was released all the way back on July 9th, 1982. It had a budget of $17 million, and the box office was $50 million. That seems like a lot for 1982.
Yes. Yes.
So that's we'll get into it. The special effects, it was known for groundbreaking elements in the film. Just kind of looking around, not seeing much on the review side, just at a glance. Usually I have it more handy. I'm in a different territory, so bear with me on that. But I'm seeing mostly like 6 to 7 out of 10 on the reviews. And of course, we'll get to our reviews later. But that kind of sets the table for this movie that we're going to discuss. So let's start with our guests. Let's start with that question. What are your first memories? Maybe we'll start with you, Ben.
So this is actually, I had to rewatch it. So this is, I think, my second time watching it. I only saw it sometime after the second Tron came out. So after I saw that, then I went back to see the original Tron. So I think the last time I saw it recently, yesterday, but before that, I think it was like 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay.
So it's, I had to rewatch it to get sense of what was going on.
So it's fairly recent, the first time you ever saw it.
Yeah.
You don't really have...
No.
Interesting. So we'll have to keep that in mind. How about you, Sheldon?
My first experience watching Tron was for this.
Never watched it. Well,
Wow.
Straight Tron Legacy. Is that the newest? Yeah. I watched that one, which it was kind of confusing because I've never seen the original Tron. I was like, "What is happening?"
same here.
So I was like, "Okay," didn't quite get what was going on. So now I understand half of that movie. Yeah. So that's kind of my take on it. Fresh eyes.
That I cannot wait. I got so many questions for you. How about you, Seth? What are some first memories you have with this movie?
So I remember being obsessed with this when I was a kid. I was really into motorcycles, so I thought this was the coolest thing on earth.
Hmm.
So when I was a kid, I just remember watching it over and over again and thinking this is like the most awesome movie I've ever seen.
And we'll get to that. The bike scenes, that was, I think, what kind of put people's mind when they hear Tron. There's a lot of other elements in this movie. There's a lot of arcade, but that's what I think of. My first memories getting into that is the bikes. We had a PC and it was only that light cycle. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
That's all it was. And played that. And I was not very good at it, especially on a keyboard. You're pressing up, down and trying to crash into walls. But it was fun. I remember thinking, oh, it's good. And I probably saw it, I want to say 25 years ago. So I didn't see it like right away either, but it wasn't as recent as Ben, but it was more on the recent side. But with that in mind, I'm very curious. So what were your expectations then when it came back to rewatch? Let's go back to Ben.
So the first time I seen it, I was a little confused on the storyline. So rewatching it, my expectation was hopefully I can understand it better. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to leave it at that.
All right. That's a good expectations. How about you, Sheldon?
I actually was really curious to watch it. It's a movie I always wanted to watch, where you always just something always comes up, or you just don't have the time or whatever. So I sat down, took the time. I was very curious to see what was the big deal about it or whatever. And I could really tell from what I saw in the movie why it was such a big deal back in the day. So it was a nice, pleasant surprise.
So, I'm very curious to hear your expectations.
So really, I was curious to see how it looked with modern eyes, because I mean, we're going back when I watched this as a child. So it had been forever since I watched it too. So I, was really excited to see if it held up or if it was going to be kind of like a disappointment,
Yeah.
you know?
That was kind of my expectations. Like, again, I saw it fairly recent, but I didn't think it was bad.
Yeah.
I was like, for the time, for the technology, this was actually pretty decent. It had an interesting story, which I'm big on stories, characters. But yeah, I had the expectation of, I hope, kind of like with Ben 2, I didn't understand a lot of it. So I was like, I hope I understand it better, but I hope it holds up. So that's our memories and expectations. But before we get into this, let's pause just a moment to hear from our sponsors.
Love movies as much as we do? Bring the experience of the big screen to your walls with movieposters.com. Whether you're into classics, blockbusters, or indie gems, they've got something for every film fanatic. As a listener of our podcast, you can get 15% off your order now. Just use code Grandma's House 15 at checkout. Head to movieposters.com and let's build your ultimate collection today.
All right. So very fitting. Did they have VHS back in 1982? I have to ask you, Sam.
I believe.
Okay. Well, we'll go with Betamax or VHS, which I'm familiar with. I know you can get this on VHS. That's probably how my grandma would have it. So we'll go with VHS. We'll say we'll take it out of the cover. We'll put it in the VCR and press play.
When a computer hacker is sucked into a game and forced to play for his life, we see his real character. Grab a drink and sit back for this old classic at Grandma's.
All right. I just want to open this up, guys, because there's so much to dive into with this one. What are some of your first impressions? Just anybody go. What jumps out to you when you're first watching this movie?
Wow. As someone with that, never seen it before, I'm you have to kind of put yourself in 1982. Like if you're again looking at today's eyes, it's going to be kind of like, all right, this is kind of cheap. But back then, this is amazing. So that's kind of what you had to do originally. But as soon as the opening scene starts up and they're on those bikes, it was whoa, like, that's pretty cool. Like they had it looked really really good for the time period that it was. So I mean, I like that aspect of it. But it was like they were trying to stretch as far as they could at the time, and it just looked awesome.
Yeah. For its time, you could see that. How about you, Ben? I'm very curious because it was fairly recent. So
So the first thought I had that caught me was the opening scene where the character Clue is driving that whatever they call them.
The motorcycle thing.
It's like the tank
Yeah, the
thing.
tank.
Yeah,
He's driving it. It reminded me exactly like the game I used to play when I was a kid on Windows 95. So I had to go back and find it. It's called Battle Zone. It was a tank,
okay.
and it was kind of similar look and everything. So that was like the first thought I had when I saw that was that Battle Zone.
Interesting. When you're watching that scene and you notice it's like the same clip of him shooting those like flying things
Yeah.
every time, like later on in the arcade, they're all crowding around him like, he's going for the high score, and he's just doing the same thing over and over. I couldn't help but I was like, okay, you guys could have spent a little more money. How about you, Seth? I'm curious here. What was your first impression?
So it just really brought back a lot of memories. I feel like I mentioned earlier, I was obsessed with this movie when I was a kid, and I watched the remastered version. So it's quite a bit different
Mm.
than the one I watched as a kid. And it was, I'll get into that later, but it was very interesting.
Yes, that's another point we didn't bring out. So you can watch this on Disney Plus. It's like remastered, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
there's new scenes in it.
Yeah.
And that's how I watched it. So
Yeah.
on Disney Plus. So I'm trying to think like what was so much of a difference, I guess what I'm trying to say.
Oh, if you want to
Okay.
talk about it now, they actually added in, like you said, scenes where there's completely different technology and it kind of is out of place. So
Yeah.
it wasn't cohesive.
Yeah.
And it took me out of the movie at the end. Like the very ending seemed like this doesn't work for me. Like
Mm.
it's not what I remembered as a child. So I'd like to watch the old version if I can get a chance to.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking when you mentioned that. Like I wish I saw the old because
Yeah.
that was so long ago.
Yeah.
I think you can see a difference because they're all grainy.
Yeah.
And then there's like clean behind them. But I thought it worked. But now I'm thinking like when you say that, I do want to go back because maybe it is something of they shouldn't have messed with it. Now that's a whole other topic. We're going to like Star Wars edition. Like, is there some like diehard Tron fans that are like, you changed it? Like,
I've never heard of that, but as somebody who's never seen it before, I didn't even realize that was that was an issue. Like I just thought this was Tron. So I just thought it was like grainy like that on purpose and some aspects, and like so
oh,
And if you're someone who's never seen it before, I'd like to see the original one now because I have no idea what it looks like.
Yeah.
that's a really great point. That was kind of my impressions though. Like I thought it looked clean, but it did look a little dated. I mean, you gotta say like, wow, like you said, Sheldon at the beginning, wow, this looks dated.
Yeah.
It's trying to like wow you because I'm sure back in 1982, people are just like, whoa, this is so incredible. But now that it's 30, 40 years later, you're talking like, okay, what's all this jazz about? Unfortunately, this is one of those, I think, time capsule movies. Definitely. It's definitely stuck in that. But when it comes to the plot, I thought it was pretty good. I just opened that up. What did you guys think of the plot overall?
If I could jump in.
Go for it.
So believe it or not, I actually thought the plot was really strong.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that because what I remembered about the movie was the action sequences. So I watched it and I'm thinking, man, they really set the stage well
Yeah.
for this movie. And it kind of took me aback. I was like, this is good writing.
I thought it was a strong point. How about you guys? What'd you think of the plot? Be honest.
Well, you look like you have a different opinion, man.
So I remember the very first time I saw it, I was very confused at what was going on.
Yeah.
And the rewatch, I was still confused at what was going on. Like, I have notes, for instance, of like who certain people are. I felt like the thing that to me was lacking at the beginning was more character development.
Yes.
From there on, I think it would have taken off and I would have been really interested. So it was moving from scene to scene, in my opinion, a little too quickly. So I was kind of, okay, who's this person? So like towards the very end of the movie, then I could kind of say, okay, well, this is this person, this is this person. So I was kind of lost for most of the movie, but that's just my take. Yeah.
I get that. Like it does. I think it starts out really slow. I agree with both of you guys actually a little bit because I felt the plot was strong. Once you understand it, it starts out really slow.
Yeah.
It's really, really slow. But interested, what did you think, Sheldon, of the plot?
I was surprised at how much I liked it. Like it wasn't, I thought it was strong. Like what Seth was saying that, it was definitely, something that I thought I could follow. And it was, kept me interested. Like, okay, what's going to happen next? What's going on with this guy? Why is he down there? The one thing that threw me though was like, whenever, he got sucked into the machine, like I was like, is this where they like got inspiration for Honey I Shrunk the Kids? Because that thing that shoots him, I was like, this looks exactly like from that movie.
Right.
Yeah, and he didn't even have like an orange they put down. At the one part, I was just like, the baseball? Is this the baseball?
So, I do have to piggyback off of his. I did write, it's Honey, I Shrunk the Kids meets Wreck-It Ralph.
Oh yeah.
That's
yeah.
a great.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice, yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's what you can look at is like this was back in 1982. You're seeing, like you said, Wreck-It Ralph, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, drawing inspiration from this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think now with modern eyes, there are weaknesses that do show, but I think everybody can respect it because it's like, look where this was at the time. You see how far it's come, what inspiration it's shown on industry. We'll get into some things. I have some things with the characters. I'm very interested. Actually, just start with that. What do you think of the characters? I mean, you have Jeff Bridges as the main character, but it can be any characters. Maybe start with you, Sheldon.
I like Jeff Bridges, and I think he did a really good job at acting throughout it. I I feel like some of them, again, I was a little confused. Like I might get some things, and I was like, "Who's this guy?" And then, like, especially, I don't know how far you want me to go with it, but like at the end,
Go for it.
where it was like, the master computer guy was like, "Hey, this guy who just died, like now you're going to give me like all your stuff," and then it's like he's alive now he's gone. And you're like, what happened there? And even the ending itself was a little weak to me. It's just like he just jumps in the beam, and it's like, hey, that's it. Like it was kind of weird. That was the only part of the movie that I was really like, really? That's it? Like that's what happens? Yeah, that was my take.
Yeah, we're gonna have to come back to that, but I'm interested in what you think of the characters.
So I did write that like the character development was a little off. So like most of it was just like me trying to like for instance, I wrote like who is the girl? Like they at first they didn't really kind of establish her until like later on as she also makes out with Tron and Jeff Bridges. So that was a little
That was my issue.
that was a little weird. But I was like I was kind of confused that the movie's called Tron, but Tron isn't the main character.
Yes.
Right.
And then the game that Flynn created, that's where I got lost because it's like, is it in the world of Tron or is the Tron person? And then and then like the master computer, I really didn't feel like, okay, what's his why does he hate everybody?
Mhm.
Kind of thing. So I wish they would have explained it a little bit better. But yeah, that's
There's a little Tron in all.
yes.
Is what it's teaching.
Yes.
But I'm interested. What do you think of the characters then?
I love Tron, Flynn, and Laura, but I like you guys are saying Jeff Bridges stole the show.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
the movie, it should have been just him, like pretty much, and you wouldn't have any kind of plot holes or maybe things you have to think about and stuff. It would just be him, and that would be him, because it's written about him basically.
Yeah.
So it just should have just focused on him more. And I just loved his acting. I thought he's very charismatic and held the camera really well.
Yeah, I'll have a hot take. He's the only good actor in this movie.
I agree.
Like I'll I get what you're saying there, but I was thinking, well, this is probably just the time. Again, going back to this is 1982, so you shouldn't be holding them to the same standard. But going back to Jeff Bridges, he stuck out. I think just because he was a better actor. There was a lot of cheesiness, and this is a Disney movie, so
The one that's popping out to me is Graham dying. Like this, like I wasn't. What is happening right now? Like, you're user or whatever they called him, and then he's like, and you're like, what is happening? Why you just did that at all? Like it was very weird.
I like the character, like the idea of, he had like what 80 matches that he won and stuff. So he's kind of this experience. I like that part of it, but I don't know if it was the actors, I don't know if it was the directing, and Jeff Bridges was just elevated. That's my hot take. I think some people were like, oh, they're fine, but I was like, just the graphics are a little dated, but I do think the acting is a little dated outside of Jeff Bridges. He was the bright spot if you want to go to that. But
I would agree with that.
okay. I'm like,
There's one character I do want to talk about for a second. It's a guy kind of has a voice, kind of like I
Yeah.
can't remember what his character name
Dumont,
is.
was it Dumont?
Dumont.
Ooh, I didn't make
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
The guy that was in the weird, like, Alice in Wonderland.
Whatever.
We have the same way.
I wrote he looked like the worm with the smokes
it. I
from
was
Alice in
picturing-
Wonderland.
I was picturing that.
And then I couldn't figure out in the next scene he's out of it. So how did he get in it? So did he have no legs or like
He was the old guy at the beginning, wasn't he? So going back to it can be a little confusing. So like Jeff Bridges' character Flynn gets actually sucked into the game. He's in the game, but everybody else is a like replica or their user. It's not the person. And that's where it is confusing because what's the guy's name that's Tron? He's like, I'll go to my desk. And then you don't.
Alan?
Yeah, Alan,
Yeah.
that's it. And then you don't see him the rest of the movie. It's in the game.
Yeah.
So you're thinking, is he controlling him? He sends him that information that is what overdoes the master user, but it doesn't show that. I think if they would have put a scene of him like on the other side, that might have made more sense. But that's my
because I believe Clue was Jeff Bridges' character in the game
yeah.
at the beginning. And then
Yeah, that was his.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and
It got
then no spoilers,
captured.
yeah.
Yeah. The cheesiness. But it was, I mean, I got to go back to, it's like, it is groundbreaking to look back on like the special effects. You can't help but, I think the action sequences held up. What'd you think of the action sequences? You brought that out. Maybe start
Yeah.
with
I actually was kind of impressed, and really the graphics were not bad for 82. But yeah, the action sequences, they pulled you in. You're like captivated. You wanted to know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
I felt like a little kid again. I'll talk about that further too. But
Yeah.
That's just. I loved it. I mean, I thought the action sequences were great.
That's how I was feeling a little bit. How about you, Ben?
The more specific, I guess, could be about the plot. Some of the questions I wrote down, like for instance, the main villain, he's says the word, I want this Chinese language line.
Mm.
Okay, what's this? Like, is he trying to rule the world? Like more, like I just wanted more motivation of what the villain was, and I felt like it was kind of lack.
Yeah.
I like the action sequences, especially whenever it came to like Tron, whenever Jeff Bridges is walking, they're like, who's that? And they're like, oh, it's Tron. He's the one that fights for the users. And like, he said there were two guys attacking him at once. He's with his frisbee going back and forth.
Yeah.
Like that was,
Yeah.
I was like, dude, that's awesome. And that's a cool looking scene. So I did like it for sure.
Yeah, action scenes were great.
Yeah. I think that's what we can all agree on. The action, the whole like disc is really cool. Like the blocking and the fight. And you might see again, it's 1982, but I was engaged. Like I was like, really getting into it. And the bike, obviously, that's what we talked about earlier. The bike scenes are great. The game where they ricochet off the ceiling and it comes back. That seems like a really cool game.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to die, but if you could play that in real life, that could be kind of cool. So I think that's the strong point. As much as it's dated, the graphics, special effects, whatever you want to call it, are still decent, good, and the action sequences. I think that's something we can really talk about. But anything else? I mean, just chime in. Anything else that kind of sticks out to you, or good or bad? It can be anything.
I liked it at the end though, whenever he was fighting, I forget the guy's name, but where Tron's fighting and he's like, I know I'll win because I'm better than you. And he like chops his disc in half and hits him in the head. Like that was like,
Statement. That's awesome. I like that.
There was one quote I really liked where he says, "On the other side of the screen, it all looks so easy," and that, like, if you think about it, that's kind of cool because it gives you the programmer side, like the computer side of everything, and I don't know, I just think that's cool.
I like that too. It was just like perspective. That goes back to kind of I do think like Ben, the character development starts out slow, but it starts to hit its stride later on. Unfortunately, some people start blowing up and are gone, so you don't get too much of that. But I do think in the middle parts it gets strong like that. I really appreciated that. What did you think, Ben? Anything else to add or
So more towards the ending scene, not to give it away, but when they are coming, I don't know if they're like priests or what they are, but they're walking up towards the main.
Yeah,
What
were those guys?
So right before when
that was weird.
when the thing comes up and it starts spinning, it made me think of a level in Star Fox when you're going around. You got to shoot those things as you're getting attacked. But I don't know, something about that reminded me just like Star Fox.
I bet Tron inspired Star
Probably.
Fox.
Yeah.
A lot of it. You could see that. And the original Star Fox on Super Nintendo was more pixelated, like Tron.
Yeah.
You got to think that was it. So that that made me think of that scene where he crashes it. I did laugh because he gets out and all the NPCs are just walking around. He's like, "I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine." I laughed out loud at that. I thought that was great. So, but yeah. Anything else? Just it can be anything. Just briefly to touch on that sticks out to you.
Well, I was going to say that scene that he was talking about at the end with the whoever they were stuck against the thing. I just thought of that fair ride. Stick to the wall.
Yeah. I spin.
That's what I thought of. But overall, I mean, I think it was it had its ups and downs.
I don't know if you guys had the same, like, if you listen to it around, like, with surround sound.
No, I didn't have.
So it could have been my setup or whatever, but it was funny because my wife was laughing. I had to like crank the volume up real high to hear them because it's quiet. Then all of a sudden it was like, so like, turn it down. But yeah, overall, I just, it was an enjoyable movie. Like I said, there's some stuff in there. It was like, but overall, it was entertaining.
Yeah. All right. Anything else to add or?
No, I got some fun facts. So
Let's hear them. I'm ready.
all right, I got a few. So the film was disqualified from receiving an Academy Award nomination for special effects because the Academy felt like that using a computer generated effects was cheating. This movie could be an Academy Award winner.
It should be. It really
but they
should.
stole it from them.
They cheated.
Yeah.
How the turns table. Now everything is CGI. That's crazy.
The next one, Pac-Man makes a graphical and audible cameo on Sark's control screen just after the light cycles escapes the game grid, and I noticed it. So I saw it before I looked up the notes or like the whatever fun facts and things, and I was like, oh, that's there. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then the next one is the video game Space Invaders was a major influence behind the film.
Mm-hmm.
You can see that.
Yeah, the floaty things. I actually thought that. I was like, that kind of looks like Space Invaders with the whatever they pick up or block and stuff. So I can totally see that.
But are you ready for the fun fact trivia question?
Ooh.
You all can answer your answers.
All right.
All right. So the trivia question is, in total, how many people worked on the movie? A, 369, B, 469, or C, 569? You all give your respectful.
Should I write it down somewhere?
No, just each of you.
I have my answer, but I want to hear from you guys first as our guests.
So A, 369, B, 469, or C, 569. How many people work on the movie? This is back in 82. When in 82, there was probably like 20, 30 people on a movie.
I'm going to go 369.
I'm going to go D, all of the above. I got to say B.
Okay. Isaac?
I think it was the most.
Isaac with the comeback. C 569 people worked on that movie.
Wow.
And that's not including the added stuff for the remaster. So I'm not
Oh,
sure.
wow.
Yeah.
That's
Few
that's
thousand.
easy. Wow. Well, I am on a winning streak. Thank you, Seth.
That's
a good-
now.
I figure it had to just be as many people because normally when the technology is so groundbreaking, they get everybody. And this was that movie. They were pushing the special effects. So this was their bread and butter. So that's awesome.
Good job.
All right. So with that, let's kind of take a look around and see what kind of reviews are out there. So Seth, what kind of reviews you seeing?
So CC the Movie Man -1 said, dated, but still one of those one of a kind movies you should check out. 7 out of 10.
7. So interesting,
What do you
guys.
guys think about that?
7 out of 10.
I think he's right. Yeah.
I think the dated that's pretty fitting. That's a good one.
It is.
He's a familiar face too. Good to see a familiar face.
Dr. Lex said, groundbreaking and still entertaining today. 9 out of 10.
Whoa. They really liked it. 9 out of 10. I'm sure that goes back to the whole nostalgia train, but can't fall into that. Yeah.
And then the last one, Snoopy Style says, forget realism and just enjoy the adventure. 7 out of 10.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I agree with that. That's a really good review. So there's a little bit of the review. So thank you for those, Seth. But let's get down to it. And we're going to start with our special guests to get this going.
You
So
feel special?
Mama tells me I was special. Yes, I do. I feel special.
okay. So I have to ask the question. And maybe what we'll do is we'll start with you, Ben.
Oh, great.
Unless you want to defer to Sheldon. Maybe we'll
Yeah, we can start with Sheldon.
Start
You know what? This is your arcade. It's only fitting you lead things off. I like that. Let's do that. So I have to ask you the question though, Sheldon. How are you going to rate the movie Tron? Are you going to take it home? Are you going to leave it at grandma's? Are you going to hide it in the attic?
For me, I think I'm going to leave it at Grandma's house. I think that it was a good movie. It's not one I don't think I was one of my favorite movies. You know, I want to really take home. I do think I'd watch it, you know, every now and again, especially with I think there's Trump, another movie. So to see it popping in again just to kind of get caught back up. I don't think it'd be like a regular. Nothing wrong with the movie. It's pretty fun, but you know, it's just not something I'd take home.
Right. So let's hear it, Ben. How are you going to rate this one?
All right, so this is based off of several things. So I have to consider, you know, a lot of things. There's a lot I do like about the movie. There's a lot that I have personally have some issues with. I kind of felt like it needed more orchestral music to it. A lot of times it was a lot of just people talking. So I feel like if they added a little bit more of that, a little bit more character development, I would definitely take it home in a second.
Okay.
But because of that, I'm gonna have to leave it at Grandma's house.
Okay. Seth?
This might be a bit surprising with the way I've been talking about it.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to say nostalgia still reminds me of being a kid. It's like thoroughly, I'm a kid. I'm automatically a child when I watch this movie. But that being said, I'm going to leave it at Grandma's as well. Not for any particular reason other than the fact that I don't feel like it was a little dated. And it
Didn't expect that.
you know, it's shocking to me that I even said leave it at Grandma's house. This was one of my favorite movies as a child. Like favorite movies.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like the odd man out here because I agree with all you fellers.
Yeah.
With all you're talking about. I had to think about this one though, because I think it's not a bad movie. But I thought about it for a minute. I was like, am I going to watch this movie again? And I kept coming back to no.
Yeah.
So this is no knock to the movie. I think it does deserve, like you guys are saying, a leave it at Grandma's. In terms of, is it a bad movie? No. But for my personal taste, I hate to say it because I thought, I might get a mixture. I'm actually going to hide this in the attic, guys. I was thinking to myself, like, I recommend going to see this. Like,
That's for me.
you said right. You know, we've got our collection of hide it in the attic up there. I've got my, I definitely want them up there. This one was, I would say it was close. It's not one of those, I I want to throw this in the attic as soon as possible. But it was just like I thought about it, and my rating scale is: am I really going to honestly watch this? Like, seek it out? Probably not. But with that said, if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's a fun ride.
Yeah.
It's got its issues, it's got things we talked about, but it's still going to be a good time. So
Yeah, I was right there with you. I'm almost to the point, like, if grandma happened to lose it in the attic, I'd be fine. Like, just right there, but it's kind of right in between. So
I still think in some ways it holds up.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about the action, but it overall, it just, I don't know what to say about it. I was kind of shocked at myself for leaving it in the attic. I mean, I thought for
leave it
sure
at grandma.
going,
You're gonna leave it at
leave it at grandma's.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
he's gonna.
I'm sorry.
I'm the one who hit it. Yeah. I was like, you joining me?
I'm sorry. I thought for sure going into it, I was going to take it home. I mean, I thought for sure, like,
Yeah.
this is easy. I don't think about this at all. And then I watched it and I was like, you know what? I wouldn't mind just wait a little while, come back, visit it again, but I'm not going to, jump at the tomorrow or, you know what I mean? Like, it's not, it just, it wasn't exactly the same movie as when I was a kid.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I agree. I think that's the fault of this movie. It doesn't hold up as well.
Yeah.
If you were in the theater in 1982, I bet this was just
Oh, yeah.
phenomenal.
Had to be.
Like, you were just like, you had Star Wars and all this other stuff, but this was still its own unique thing. And obviously, if you look at arcades, which were
Yeah.
popular at the time,
Yeah.
it hit on all the notes. But yeah, that's just how I feel about it. Again, I feel like I'm the odd man out. Actually, I was thinking maybe
Let's do this. I'm
So-
like right there with you.
I guess with me too, it was like, I always think, well, this movie was on at someone's house. Like, I just like walked in. Would I like keep watching it, or be like, nah, I'm gonna turn around and like go to something else? Like, this feels like one of those. If it was on TV back in the day, like, all right, Tron, sure, I'll watch it.
yeah, I could see that.
And I felt if they fixed just in my thoughts, 3 different things. If they would have fixed those things, in my opinion, got it right, I think this would have been like up there with Star Wars. Like, everybody would be freaking out about it.
Yeah.
It would, again, the graphics, they don't hold up now, but if I seen it in the theater when I was a kid, it would have been amazing.
You're right.
I
Exactly.
thought about all those comments when I was watching it, and I was like, if they just did, like you said, just a couple things,
Mhm.
Yeah.
people would have loved this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, why isn't it talked about today? Like, they talk about the new ones, but they don't talk about the old one. Like,
Yeah.
hey, it's just a shame.
So that would be, I think we can all agree. If you haven't seen it, you got to check it out.
Yeah.
Come to your own conclusion.
Yeah.
And just be aware of those things that we talked about. There's going to be some cheesiness and those types of things, but we have to get to another rating. We have to hear what Granny is going to say. So what is Granny's family-friendly rating?
Granny's family-friendly rating for this one is C for language.
Yeah, for a Disney movie, there's a lot of language. I was
There's
surprised.
some language in this one.
So
It's almost right out the gate. That
Yeah.
scene, it ends on the
Yeah.
on a curse word. and
Well, it
it's
is the 80s, so.
I think they were kind of trying to make it geared towards kids, but also appease the adults.
Yeah.
And that was their way of doing it. It's just kind of, when you watch it now, it's like, wait, this is kind of unnecessary. And not that really you shouldn't have cursing anyway, but it was especially out of place. Like you said, right out the gate, it was just like, that was different.
Yeah.
So I guess be aware of that. There is some, obviously it's a video game, but there's violence, obviously, with the fighting and stuff. But that's kind of Granny's going to be cringing more at the language, I think, overall. She understands the premise and other things. So, well, we did it, guys. We reviewed Tron in an arcade. Mark that off your bucket list. You got to do that.
Yes.
This was an absolute blast, guys. Thank you so much for, giving us, again, this opportunity to come to your arcade and do it in here. This was so much fun. But before we wrap things up, let's make sure we give you guys a spotlight. So let's start with you, Sheldon. Where can people find and connect with you?
You can find me on YouTube at GalgaGuy88. Also, too, I am on Twitter and TikTok. Find me on there. It's the same, GalgaGuy88. And I should pop up. Right.
How about you, Ben?
So I run a podcast with Isaac called Mustaches and Coffee. So you can check us out on all the socials. And we're on YouTube. Mustaches and Coffee is our podcast.
There you go. And how about for us? For Movies at Grandma's House, why don't you tell the good people where they can find and connect with us?
You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. You can email us at moviesatgrandmashouse@gmail.com. We have a newsletter, so keep up to date with all things movies at Grandma's house. We are on Patreon. And go to movieposters.com and type in Grandma's House 15 at checkout for 15% off.
There you go. Well, thank you again so much, guys. This was an absolute blast, like we said. We might have to have you on for the next video game type of round that we do, because I think this was a home run, all that good stuff, whatever you want to say. So that's going to do it at the arcade, or as we say, Grandma's house for now. But don't worry, we will be back soon. So in the meantime, remember to be kind and rewind. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye bye. Take care.